Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hard 100, a video series documenting the culling of my collection from what it is to what it's going to be. And that is a hard 100 games. There are games out there that define a genre. Deck building came from Dominion. We have racing games that came from things like Formula Day. We have the Dudes on a Map game that came from games like Risk. But very few of these games that define the genre are the best in the genre. As far as I understand it, the game that defined what an economic or negotiation game was Monopoly. And as we all know, or as anyone who plays any board games are very quick to tell you, Monopoly is not a great game. I would love to play it with the real rules one day just to see how it actually is and not how my dumb kid brain remembers it. But today, I'm going to talk about a game that is the best negotiation game ever made. And I'm going to do it while doing my very, very best not to do any type of racist accent. Ladies and gentlemen, a Chinatown. Fuck. Chinatown by Karsten Hartwig. The Art of Trading is a game by Z-Man Games and Philosophia, in which you are trying to rebuild Chinatown in the 1960s. It's vague as to what kind of Chinatown that it is. There might be the Chinatown in New York, which it probably is. We have a Chinatown here in Houston, and it's probably not that. What you're doing in this game is trying to group together certain types of businesses that you draw from bags. The turns are very, very simple. The first start of your turn, you're gonna get a hand of cards, and you're gonna get to keep some of those cards, and then you just automatically get those spaces on the board. After you've determined those spaces, you are then going to be able to draw a certain number of tiles from a bag, and then the best part of the game starts. I will argue the actual game starts. All this other stuff about when to pick, what to pick isn't really all that important, and you don't really have a lot of control over it. Where this game shines and why it is the best negotiation game is summed up by 3 simple words, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to tell you this, but here, anything goes. You can trade literally anything for anything. I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. I'm not talking about I can trade you this space for this space, or this building for this building, or this amount of money for this building, or any combination of those. I'm talking anything for anything. I played this game yesterday, and a young lady was in great need of one of the buildings, a tropical fish store to be exact. And what did she offer? She went to go get the other player a refill on their water, which required her to go to a completely separate part of the building to get ice and water and come back. You can trade anything for anything. Hey, go get me a soda. Awesome, thank you so much. I want first pick in the next game that we play. All these promises and all these negotiation things are non-binding. Let me tell you a story. There is a friend that I have a long time ago, Phil, who I've talked about many times on this channel, and I've mentioned before why he doesn't trust me. It is because of Chinatown. He asked for a deal. He said, I will give you this, but if you get one of these buildings in the future, you give it to me. And I'm thinking, sure, okay. The way you pick your spaces is depending on what turn it is. You have, let's say, 5 cards. And on that turn, you get to keep 3 of the cards and the other 2 go back in the discard to be reshuffled for possibly the next round. What he said was, if you get this card, give it to me. What I heard was, if you keep this card, give it to me. So the card that he wanted and the card that I agreed to came up not once, but twice through the course of the game. And when I take my 5 cards, I didn't keep those because I heard those that I keep. So I didn't technically break our deal. He just wasn't very clear on it. If you've ever seen a movie like Bedazzled or Aladdin 2, Return of Jafar, you have to be very specific about the deals that you make. This is a game about yelling at your friends. I've played this game with essentially strangers, and I played this game with family and friends, and every time it has been a fucking blast. People get loud, people get crazy, that's expected, but then you really start to see how people work. One of the ladies that we played with yesterday, her job where I work is to train people how to negotiate. And guess who won the game? She did. By a lot. For some reason, people think that I'm good at this game, and I'm not. All I do is talk a lot. What I don't do is win a lot. And this game is one that I get to do the most talking. If anything, I can be a little bit of a shit stirrer, but still try to come out on top, which I've only won once. The components for the game are decent. The box is entirely too small. Now the box, entirely too small. It doesn't shut all the way. There are not a lot of components in there. It's a couple of bags of cards, a beautiful bag of drawing stuff from, and I love it. And then some little things to calculate your dudes, and the board. That's really it. But everything is in here to the point where when you try to close this box, you gotta get it just perfect and give it a shake, otherwise it doesn't fit. But that's not a knock against it. This game has gotten played probably more than any game that I own. And it is one that I am never hesitant to break out, because this is one of those very rare games that I can teach you how to play it while we play it. As the first few turns, or the first turn in particular, there's no real strategy to do. I give you a simple recommendation that the buildings that you keep, you might want to try to group them together. And after the first round, the benefit of these buildings make a lot more sense. Oh, if I take this one, then I can negotiate for that if they get this. If I take this one, that'll be worth more later since they're trying to do this. But it's so beautiful that the first round that you play, it can be a teaching round, and everyone is on the same footing. I'm not playing thinking that I know something that you don't know. We're all on the same foot, and everyone starts on the same foot. The only thing that's gonna make you win this game is your ability to win this game. Housekeeping. Ages 14 and up, I don't know why. Based on some previous conversations that I've heard, it's probably the size of the bits, although it can be very mean and a very thinky game. Sort of. 3 to 5 players, you need a minimum of 3. I've played this at every player count. I played this with 3 players, 4 players, and 5 players. I say at 5 players, it is the best. At 3 and 4, I've still had fun playing it, but if you can get 5 people around a table yelling at each other, hell yes. 60 minutes. If you know what you're doing, 60 is fine. It can go as little as 45, but our longest game took up to 2 hours because people refuse to give up. We are arguing and wheeling and dealing. The first couple of rounds go pretty quick, but the last 4 rounds are very, very long. There's nothing in the rule book necessarily that tells you to tell anyone else when you are done negotiating. So what I have implemented as a little bit of a house rule is that when you are done, thumbs up on the table, and then once all the thumbs are up, we can move on. But at any point, you can take your thumb back to try to jump in. It's just a courtesy to let everyone know that they're ready to move on, or you can do it as a thumb up, but really what you're doing is doing this, because you're telling the other people, I'm not willing to negotiate anymore because I'm done, and it can be infuriating. So Chinatown. Chinatown is the 3rd game, I believe, to be considered a perfect game. There is not a single thing about this game that I would change. The only reason you would not like this game if you are not comfortable with the negotiation and the art of trading. It's perfect. There is nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't add a single thing to it. There's no expansion that could come out for this that I would want. The only thing that I would want more of this is that they made a Chinatown 2 or some other version of the board layout with the numbers in a different setting. But that's it. I don't want this to change ever. This game, Chinatown, the art of trading, is in the hard 100. This game is going absolutely nowhere. I bought this game. Every time I played it, I loved it. This sinks into the heart of a competitive gamer. This is you truly proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are the best at the table. It's not, oh, what cards I draw, but it is what cards you keep. It's not what tiles I draw, but it is what tiles I'm willing to give up. And it's your ability to spend the right money, to wager the pros and cons of everything. At the end of the round, depending on what buildings you have out, you get a certain amount of money based on a couple of things. The main thing is if you have a building put together. I should probably explain. All the tiles have a number on them, and that number is how many of those tiles have to be next to each other for it to be considered complete. So I get more points for completing a complete building as opposed to an incomplete building. And even if someone else owns it, you have 2 incompletes, but then you can sell it and they get more. So you're gonna wanna make sure you keep all that. And the numbers on the tiles also matter, because the number of tiles in the bag is that number +3. There's just so much to think about, but so little to get in your way of thinking about it. The game is so fucking good Why aren't you playing it now? Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Billy. This has been the Hard 100. Chinatown, with minimal racism, is a perfect game. It is perfect for my shelf. It is perfect for yours. If you don't own this game, go buy this game. Of all of my perfect games that I've talked about, Takedo has a special place in my heart. It gives me a really good feeling. I understand some people might not think it's much of a game. The Grizzled has a very unique theme. It is also a perfect co-op experience. If you want a perfect negotiation game, ladies and gentlemen, Chinatown, get yourself a copy. Again, my name is Billy. This has been the Hard 100. This has been Chinatown. I thank you so much. Peace out.